Hi, I'm Makoto Takemiya, one of the contributors to Sora with updates for January 14th, 2023. Yesterday, the token bonding curve dollar proposal went out, and people have been asking questions and going over it. So far, the reception is quite well, and there's many questions that have been answered in our chats, so please check out our chats if you're not there. But generally, a lot of people want to know how this would work. So for example, if the Zora price is $3, and you have 100,000 TBCD, and you buy Zora with the TBCD from the token bonding curve, then you would get 25,000 Zora, because there's a slight premium to the market price of $1 added to the market price for the TBCD calculation. So you get 25,000 Zora, and if you wanted to sell that into the token bonding curve to get out TBCD, you would only get 80% of it. So you'd get, if you put in 100,000 TBCD originally, you'd only get 80,000 TBCD back when you do it, because there's a margin of 20%. And this 20%, half of that goes into buying back and burning VAL currently, though in the future, majority of that will go into what are called VAL DAOs, which is like a DAO for VAL token holders. And the other half of this 20% margin goes into various technical accounts that are currently not being used, like, for example, project funding, or giving incentives to stores and to shops that accept Zora as payment, and to shoppers as like a payback bonus. Some of these might be useful for like Sora cards, so we might use these in the future, but there's no plans currently. Another question that has come up repeatedly is for XST, because under the new proposal, XST would no longer be minted for project funding. So do we still need to have the buyback and burn of XST using part of the margin of the token bonding curve, as well as 10% of the remint of PSwap and VAL? Yeah, these are really great questions. So this is not yet decided. I think the initial iteration of the implementation will just keep it as it is now, which is to have the buyback and burn for XST. But long term, I think that's not totally justifiable, because XST is not used for project funding anymore. So instead, it's probably better to just burn the Zora in order to reduce the Zora supply. So what that means is, for example, out of the 20% margin in the token bonding curve, a part of that goes to buy back and burn XST. Instead, that would just be burned, so that Zora supply would be reduced a little bit, because there's a little bit of a margin. So that's kind of the goal of it. Another common question has been like, why are we even bothering with this? Why not use XST-USD? So XST-USD has a slightly different use case. So it's a synthetic asset with really no margin between buy and sell. And that makes it good as a synthetic stablecoin. Because it's a synthetic asset, there are different things you have to be careful of, like, for example, price manipulation, things like that. And that's not really something you want to have tied to Zora anymore. And so instead, we're putting that into its own platform, which is the Zora Synthetics platform, or Zora Synthetics platform, XST. And instead, there's a new token that's proposed, token bonding curve dollars, that is convertible to Zora. So it's a stable coin kind of convertible to Zora, and it's useful for things like paying invoices, or for even like nation states who want to have some kind of convertibility for Zora for their, like if they were to use Zora, they would still want to have some kind of dollar accounting, because the dollar is the world reserve currency currently. And yeah, it just makes it easy to get in and out of the two. And it's better to do it this way rather than just having something like minting Zora directly or something like that, because we want to kind of build up the Zora economy over time. And by having this building up the reserves in the token bonding curve, even at a discounted price to the normal token bonding curve rate, will actually build up the assets of the ecosystem, and that will most likely dampen some of the downward volatility of the Zora token. And yeah, this is, I think, a really exciting proposal. We should still be careful about minting TBCD. It should only be done for productive purposes. So for example, creating new goods and services on the Sora network or in real life that use Sora tokens, you wouldn't want to use it for speculation or consumption, things like that. So you wouldn't want to like mint a bunch of TBCD and then like speculate on Tesla stock or something. That would be kind of an abuse of the system. So that's where the Sora DAO governance comes into place. So everyone should review all the governance proposals and make sure they make sense. And for the first year at least, I expect the proposals for funding to be mainly for developing goods and services on the Sora network, making new additions to PokeSwap, building our bridges, building out new content, because that brings in users, and we need more users and services. That's really important. So hopefully that answers some of the questions. With that, I've got daily network stats. In the last 24 hours, there were 1,830 transactions on the Sora network, 1,206 of which were swaps, 236 of which were Demeter farming related transactions, 90 were transfers, and there were 195 active accounts on the Sora network. So with these fast updates, let's go back to work.